In today's show, I've got no scheduled guests, but hopefully there'll be some live callers. Join in to discuss and share your tips and advice about how to organize yourself throughout the day. Later on, I'll be talking about the vid in schools and also whether summer schools should become a staple for years.
From London, this is the Sunday Lunch with Kalil Rouse on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/LSW/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio.
Guess who's back again. Kalil's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's? This feels so surreal. This feels so surreal, and I'm fully prepared to talk to myself for an hour and a bit because I feel like everyone just forgot who I am. I know I've got the well-known colleagues in the studio. Mr. Tom Roger. I've got Sobia there as well, so shout out to them. It just feels very strange. I've been away for a very, very long time. It's just I thought about my summer holidays and I didn't want to do anything related to teaching at all. I wanted to put my feet up, wanted to chill, wanted to relax, wanted to spend time with my little boy who is now, how old is he, you ask? He is now, when was he born? May, June, July, August. He's just over 15 months. So spend some time with him. And I thought, right, well, if I'm doing nothing official over summer, this has got teachers in the title. That means it's slightly related to teaching. Let me take a break from that as well, just to recharge, reboot, reset. Nothing wrong with that. No shame whatsoever. But it feels good to be back. It feels good to be sat in my office, aka the corner of my bedroom, with the sun beating down on my back. And I'm just talking in my own unfiltered way to the masses. If you are new or you've never listened to me before, give me a comment in the chat. Let me know where you're calling in from, where you're listening from. I don't know if there's an intro message when you come into the show. I assume there may be saying something about, let me know where you're from or something along those lines. But please do so, because I imagine I've got some new listeners that have never heard me before. So it's good for you to be here. Oh, there we go. So we got someone called Nikema. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And from the UK, currently in East Africa. And it's your first time listening. Welcome. I don't know what made you choose my show, but I'm flattered that you stumbled across my show. So I will, as always, you know me, I'll run the intro in about a minute or two while the room fills up. And when I say fills up, I mean we get to double figures. I just need to see double figures. When I see double figures, I breathe. But yeah, do you know what? I tweeted something. If you're just tuning in, just a bit of housekeeping, because I'm going to be rusty. So all the fellow hosts in the chat, if I forget to do something, let me know, because I'm out of practice. But you are listening to Teachers Talk Radio. This is a live talk show, which means it's an interactive studio. You could be listening live through the Podbean app. You could be listening back on catch up via Spotify. I still find it strange that my name is on Spotify, but that's a separate issue. And you can listen to us, or you can find out a lot about the show and all our hosts and our previous shows and shows to come on ttradio.org, or follow us on Twitter at ttradio2021. Those are my main housekeeping. But listen, there's a grey phone icon at the bottom of the Podbean screen. So if at any point you feel compelled to call in and just save me from talking to myself, or better yet, you've got something to contribute, then press that grey phone icon and you can call in at any time. This is like a LBC style talk show. So it should be people calling in, chipping in, and so on and so forth. But let me just say one thing before I go on. The weather, I tweeted about it today. And I'm looking outside and it is ridiculous. We had this country had how many weeks to sort itself out? 6 weeks, 5.5 weeks. And how many days of sun did we get? Let me know in the chat. How many days of sun do you recall? I'm talking days where you're like, whoa, shorts, vest, topless. Whatever, that kind of level of sun. How many days of sun did we get in the UK? My instinct tells me 2, maybe 3. I don't even know when they were, but I'm talking sun, like heat. We're talking high 20s. How many days of that do we get? Because I'm hearing, the last time I checked the news, which was literally today, that we've got a kind of succession of 27, 28, 26 degrees coming up. And that is rude, because I was ready. I had flip-flops, I had my shorts, I had my vest, and I was ready to just go outside and enjoy the sun, and it never came. So this country is rude. And now we're going back to school in our kind of classrooms and dressed in suits and whatever else, or formal wear, and the sun's coming out. Vex. I'm Vex. He said, my voice is refreshing. Thank you. I've never heard anyone describe my voice as refreshing before. I never really know what my voice sounds like. I don't know. I've never heard refreshing before. I'll take that compliment. And someone said UK weather is rude. It is 100%. Mr. Seb Ventura, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Right. I'll run the intro one more time. We've hit my target of double figures, which means we're all good to go. And after that, we're going to be talking all things organization. I sent a tweet out earlier. No, it was on Friday, actually. I took a gamble Friday evening. I sent a tweet out and I thought it was going to get completely aired or ignored. Let me translate. I thought it was going to get completely ignored, but luckily it built up some traction. So after the intro, we're going to get into how people stay organized. And I'm actually going to do a live run through of one of these Microsoft apps. I don't even call them apps. Microsoft programs that people have been recommending just to see what it's all about, because I've never used it. And it's Microsoft OneNote. So you're going to hear me go through, well, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I will actually literally be looking at Microsoft OneNote for the very first time just to work out what in the world it's all about. But yeah, let's run this intro. Let's get into it. And on the other side of this, let's talk all things organization.
Live from London, this is the Sunday Lunch with Kalil Rouse on
Good afternoon. It is now 1:07 on Sunday, the 5th of September, and you're tuned into the Sunday Lunch Show with me, Kalil Rouse, on Teachers Talk Radio. In today's show, I've got no scheduled guests, but please call in at any time. Join in to discuss and share your tips and advice about staying organized throughout the day. Later, I'll be talking about the vid in schools and whether summer school should become a staple for years to come. As always, tune in and talk it out, and I am live.
Live from London, this is the Sunday Lunch with Kalil Rouse on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/LSW/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio.
Cool. I nailed that intro this time. The last time I missed out my whole last line because I was rusty, but I feel like I'm back in the swing. So, context. I sent a tweet out on Friday about 7 in the evening, and it said, #EduTwitter. How do you keep yourself organized? Are you a proud user of the Big Teacher Planner? Do you have a hard copy to-do list and a notepad? Are you tech savvy enough to keep it all electronic? And where are my post-it note people? I know you're out there. And I was just wondering, the reason why I was wondering this is because this year I've taken another level in my kind of style of organization. I've been on a journey with organization because teaching, as you know, especially the more kind of responsibilities you get, the more different directions you get pulled, whether it's trying to focus on things to do literally for your class and their kind of educational development. Then you've also got, if you've got more responsibilities, you've got to kind of counter, you've got to balance that with your additional, maybe you've got a TLR, so that's a teaching and learning responsibility. You've got responsibilities in that department, deadlines to meet. Maybe you're a head of department, so therefore you've got a departmental focus and deadlines there. You've got line managers telling you to do X, Y, Z. You've got kids asking this. You've got parents asking that. It's a bit mad. And the thing with schools is, like, it's depends on different roles, but I've got a very pastoral background, and my days used to be very unpredictable, very unpredictable. Anything could happen in the day, issues between kids, and then I'd have to react, reprioritize, amend my schedule, work out what I needed to do in X, Y, Z. So my question to you guys before we get started, I want to see what you guys in the studio do. What are your what do you do to stay organized? I'm talking like literally throughout the day. I'm not talking about planning out your week. I get what you'll do, that we could do like a kind of plan of the week. I'm talking on a day-to-day basis. What is your go-to? Either it's a program or a strategy, or it's a notepad, or it's post-its galore. I don't know. What do you do to make sure you keep your priorities in check, but you also stay on top of things that might crop up in the day? And you have to balance that with things that you've got. Maybe you've got a deadline for Wednesday and it's Monday. So where do you record the fact that you've got a deadline coming up? All that stuff. How do you stay organized? Because I feel like I'm likely to, I don't know, we've got maybe some ECTs in the room, which are early career teachers who are just entering the profession, and they may feel a bit overwhelmed already. So maybe we can share some Maybe we've got some tips, some advice. So those of you that are in the live studio, or if you're listening via Twitter, if we're still doing Twitter streams, I don't know. Tom Rogers, are we still doing Twitter streams? I don't know. If we are doing Twitter streams, you're listening via Twitter, tweet with hashtag TT Radio or at TT Radio 2021 or at me, cheeky plug, at Kalil_R91. Let me know how you stay organized on a day-to-day basis. Literally from when you get to work in the morning, what do you do? Because like I said, big teacher planner. I remember that used to be, when I first started, it was bought for me, I think, by the school. And it was kind of pitched as a holy grail, the thing you can't live without. And within, I don't know how many days or weeks, even from when I started teaching as a spring chicken, age of 21, I lost interest in the teacher planner. It was just too heavy to carry around. That was the main thing. I didn't want to carry it around. And I was so used to things being on a phone at the age of 21 and things being electronic that the thought of having to write everything down like some Luddite, I didn't want to do it. But I did it for a little bit. But you have to put your lessons in. Oh, period 1, I've got this. Period 2, I've got this. Oh, meeting at this time. But yeah, I've really fell out of love with the hefty teacher planners, man. So I don't know what you guys, and if no disrespect, by the way, if you are still a user of the big teacher planner, no disrespect at all. Do you, not a problem. But for me, nah, too hefty, too laborious. I'm far too, what am I now? I'm a millennial, aren't I? So I'm far too used to things being on my screens and the laptops and the phones and everything. So then I asked a question. Oh, here we go. So then, yeah, someone, Taylor Therapy, who I remember the name was, I think it was Nikema. Yeah, Nikema's saying that, yeah, reminders on the phone scheduled in so I don't forget. Has your phone got an app with reminders? Is this like an alarm you're talking about, or is it an app, or is it through an email? I do wonder. So I know phones can do everything these days, but definitely reminders on the phone. That's the one thing I personally always have on me, more so than a notepad or a pen. If I ain't got a pen, but I'm going to have my phone. The amount of times I can walk into a meeting, and it's a bit embarrassing when they ask you to take notes in a staff briefing or something, and there's always that few staff members that just kind of look around, look around at each other, and it's that glance of anyone got a pen? Anyone got a pen? Anyone got a pen? And it only takes one person, usually me, to be fair, to have the kind of gumption or the confidence to say, yeah, anyone got a pen, before the little, the more I don't know what to call them. I don't know what word I use, before the rest of them go, yeah, I need one as well, please. Because everyone else feels embarrassed to admit they turned up slightly ill-equipped. And that happens. Listen, I've got no shame in it. No shame at all. If you haven't got a pen, ask for a pen. It's worse than just sitting there in silence. Because I just always think if I had a kid in the class who didn't have a pen, I would expect him to maybe ask his neighbor for a pen. And if not, ask me. I wouldn't want him to just sit there in silence and not write anything the whole lesson. And that has happened. I remember years ago that happened. We get to the middle of the lesson when I wasn't very experienced, doing a bit of a walk around. And it may have happened to you guys. Let me know if it has. And you go to a kid who's done nothing. You're like, what have you been doing the whole time? Poor behavior management, by the way, just asking a kid what have you been doing the whole time, because that just creates animosity. But that's a separate argument. Either way, I asked him, what have you been doing? Well, halfway through the lesson, he goes, yeah, I ain't got a pen. I said, huh? He said, I ain't got a pen. I said, what are you going to do about it? I said, I don't know. I said, why didn't you ask me then? He said, I don't know. I said, oh, for God's sake. But that happens. I just don't want that to be me as a professional. If I haven't got a pen, I'll say, I ain't got a pen. Either way, so my point saying all that is everything's on the phone, just like Nikema. He says he's got calendar reminders, and it says another useful thing I do is make a list taking into consideration time frame each task will take. And where do you put that? Is that a hard copy list now, Nikema? I'm assuming. Is that on a notepad? Yeah, it's on a notepad. So let me tell you about what I do. And I'm not saying this is like the best thing in the world, but I find it quite useful. A lot of my work comes through Outlook. I don't know about you lot, but a lot of my work comes through Outlook and emails, literally everything. I have a safeguarding role. Everything comes through emails to me. And if people send something to me, or ask me to do something, I ask them to put it in an email, because that is where everything is central. So I thought, right, well, if I'm already working around my email, then it makes sense to try and keep things in that same location electronically. So what I now do, and I learned about Outlook very recently. I never knew the power of Outlook until I joined my current school. I didn't realize all the things Outlook can do. I still have pretty much no idea about all the potentials for Outlook, but I didn't know much about creating rules. So you can create rules for emails as they come in. And you can specify whether it's an email from a certain sender, or maybe it's an email with a certain subject or something else. You can specify where it goes in your inbox. And to some people, they might sound like, oh, how do you not know that? But I'm going to admit, I didn't know. I'm going to admit ignorance. And I guarantee there's someone listening who didn't know that either. Yeah, so I'm not on my own. Either way, I didn't know Outlook could do all these things. So what I've done now is I set up I've got numerous folders. And in terms of tasks and stuff, I've got a folder that's called To Do, because that makes sense. And the rule I've set up in Outlook now is what I used to do last year is email myself with the subject saying To Do, and then it would say what I have to do and little notes underneath in the main email body. That was last year. This year, I've gone one step above, one step further. I've set up a rule that means that if I send myself an email with the subject To Do, it won't go into my main inbox. It will ping across directly into another subfolder called To Do. So that To Do folder just gets automatically filled up with all the things I need to do. The next, and I'll get onto a little bit about prioritization and stuff, but that alone is handy for me personally, because like I said, I've always got my phone on me. I don't know about you lot, but I've always got my phone on me. So I'm walking around school, and then things crop up or whatever, or an email comes through and it comes through to my phone. I'm like, oh, definitely got to do that. I'll reply to it to myself and on the move, and I'll just reply to myself with the subject To Do, send, and I know it'll be in there for when I'm sat down. I've got a spare moment to actually prioritize things, because a lot of things crop up in the day. Like I said, I've got safeguarding responsibilities. So as you guys may know, that means a lot of things can happen. Either way, so that's what I do now. And then in terms of prioritization, I've got a notepad. I think many people do. I've got a notepad that stays now more in my office. I don't like carrying around my notepad anymore, because I used to leave it in random places. You know, you just go somewhere, you put it down, you get comfortable, you leave, and you have and then you have to retrace your steps. And then you tell someone, and they always do that classic line of, well, when did you last have it? And I'm like, well, if I knew when I last had it, I would know where to look. So don't ask me stupid questions. But people always do. So yeah, I used to have a notepad I used to take on the move. Problem was, I used to write down like maybe some sensitive information, pupils' names in there, for example, information, notes from meetings, a lot of fairly confidential information. I've done my GDPR data protection module, and I know it's not great if you have some data breaches, and data breaches can come from obviously electronic, but also information written down. So I've stayed away from walking around with my notepad. So instead now my kind of notepad and my task hard copy thing stays on my desk. And then on there, I'll write down the urgent things that crop up. And then I'll just always have them to hand when I'm sat down, I remember. And that's where my prioritization comes in. Welcome. I've just seen people enter live studio. Mr. Tom Rogers, thank you for liking the show. If you're in, by the way, please share the show. You've been listening to me ramble on for about how long now? About 10, 15 minutes. If you're enjoying it, well, I say enjoying, if you're tolerating it and you're still here, please share, because it means I must be engaging you in some way that other people may benefit from. Joel, I know who you are. We spoke on Twitter very recently about organization. I'm about to actually go through the tweets. One of yours is on there, Joel, that I'm going to be talking about. So yeah, at any point, I'll say it to Joel, say it to whoever else, feel free to call in. We're about to get into specifics about how people organize themselves throughout the day. I've said my bit. One little caveat is I used to be a Post-it note guy. I used to be all about the Post-it notes. I don't understand. Someone explain, why are they so they're so simple, yet so effective. So simple. Just a little piece of paper with a sticky bit at the top. Whoever made that is a genius. Absolute genius. Imagine thinking, do you know what? These stickers are good, but I just want a sticker with a little bit of stickiness. I just want a sticker, but only with a little bit of stickiness, and then revamp it, and I'm going to call it a Post-it, and then disseminate it to the wider market. That is crazy. That is absolutely crazy how simple yet so effective. And I don't use Post-its that much these days, because they just ended up my desk looked ridiculous. Post-its on the laptop screen, Post-its on the desk, Post-its on the front of the planner, Post-it on the front of the notebook, Post-it here, Post-it there, Post-its everywhere. So I've moved away from those. Okay, that's enough about me. What I'm going to do now is go through some tweets from people who responded to my original tweet and see what they said they would do. And then you guys in the live studio, please chip in, or even better, call in. How do you stay organized throughout the day? We could have ECTs, NQTs. Give me another acronym. I don't have another acronym. We can have them all listening, wondering how do these fairly experienced teachers remain organized? What gems can we give them and everything else? Okay, so first couple of tweets came in. I'm not going to use people's Twitter names because that's not very nice. And just in case I say something that's a little bit ridiculing in a nice way, but a little bit, I don't want people to come at me. So the first one I can see is someone said that this is their voice, so not me. They say, I tend to write lesson headers in an exercise book for my lessons and ask other staff if there are any meetings or events happening soon. Interesting. So when I read this one, I didn't really respond to it at the time because I was trying to get my head around it. So they got an exercise book. Well, is this like a maths exercise book? Who knows? Literally sounds like they've stolen an exercise book from a kid or borrowed one. Borrowed. They've got an exercise book and they write down their lessons. Then they ask other staff if there are any meetings or events happening soon. What they do with that information, I don't know. No disrespect to this person, but it sounds like they may need to get a little bit more. Funnily enough, is from Joe, and I'm going to mention your name, Joe, because you're in the studio. Next tweet that I've got was from Joe, and Joe says that he has a timetable spreadsheet with everything on it that links to my phone. That's key for me, because linking to the phone for me, like I said, that's a must. And then he says all my emails go into a folder as soon as I get them. I still don't know what you mean by that, and he's actually calling in. Excellent.
Hello.
Joe, testing.
Yes, I can hear
you. I can hear you as well. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Listen, do you know what? I'm fine and dandy this sunny Sunday. Is it sunny where you are, Joe?
It is quite.
Say again. You went in and out there. Oh, Joe, testing.
Hello, sorry, I have a slight.
If someone in the chat can let me know whether it's. Oh, go on.
I feel like my signal.
I can hear you now.
Sorry, I blame the Wi-Fi.
Are you on? I was going to say, you're on the Wi-Fi. What are you trying to? You're on the 5G, 4G at the moment.
If I'm trying, Wi-Fi, but it doesn't seem to be doing well.
Fair. Well, you're currently all good at the moment. You're currently all good. So I was going to ask you, because when I read your tweet, I wanted to ask a question. So you said that all my emails go into a folder. What do you mean by what folder are you talking about?
So we use Outlook, and then where you can make your folders on the left-hand side, I've made a folder for basically everything. So I have one for form, one for my head of department, one for each member of my department, one for SLT, one for different year groups, one for head of years, and I just move everything into them folders as soon as I get them.
Oh, I see.
It's just easier
okay.
Then,
so it's a manual thing.
And, yeah.
No, I feel like you want a slight delay because every time I can hear you speak. Yeah.
Yeah, there seems to be a slight delay. Every time I get in.
Joe, you speak, I will listen. You speak, I will listen.
Okay, so as soon as I get an email, if I haven't dealt with it, it stays in my inbox, and then as soon as I've dealt with the email, I move it out of the inbox and into a folder straight away.
Oh, I see. That's the missing piece. So the folders aren't for things you need to do. Folders are a way of keeping yourself and others accountable for things that have been done.
Yes, that's exactly what it's for. So if someone sends me an email saying, can you deal with this? I will go deal with it. As soon as it's done, it's moved into a folder and I can forget about it then.
Right, I get you. Yeah, do you know what? Because there are some people I've got a colleague of mine actually who deletes emails after they've dealt with it. And I just can't do it. I just can't delete emails. My inbox in my Outlook spans from when I first joined my current school to now. I don't think I've deleted a single email. But let me rephrase. I delete emails that are literally like junk, for example. But in terms of correspondences and things that people have asked me and everything else, I don't delete anything. But I've kept them in my big old long inbox so I can still search. But that idea of setting up folders to move manually would make my life a lot easier, because then I'd have a smaller.
I just imagine your inbox is just a long screen of emails, which really stresses me out.
That's exactly it. You don't have to imagine it. That is exactly what it is. And I don't use it. Yeah, we've definitely got different inboxes there. Mine is a long stream. Mine is, I think, let me see if I can actually work out how many messages I've got in my inbox right now. Let me just to set you off a little bit. Does it even tell me how many messages I've got? If it's the items bit, then it's telling me my inbox has got 11,338 messages, all read, but 11,338 emails in my inbox, Joe.
I've got 6. 11,000. I have 6.
I've never looked. You know what? I've never looked at before. That is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, 11,000. This makes a lot of sense. Why maybe my Outlook takes a little while to load sometimes. The cogs are starting. Right. So then, do you know what? I like this. So then, okay, this has been useful. But then what was I going to say? So when things pop up, I remember we spoke about this a little bit on Twitter. So when things pop up, do you know when people do? They give you the kind of comment in person, saying, "Oh, do you know, maybe you've met with an SLT member or something, and they've asked you to do something in passing." What do you do with that if it happens? You've got nothing to write it on, etc. What do you do in that situation?
So as soon as someone says to me, "Can you do X, Y, or Z?" I say, put it in an email, because if you don't put it in an email, I'll forget about it and it's not getting done. Don't give me a piece of paper. Don't give me anything. Send me an email and then I'll do it. But because otherwise I'll just forget who it was that asked, what they asked me to do, and a deadline that I've got to do it by. And if it's in an email, it's all there.
Yeah, agreed. I'm the same as you. That's probably why I've got 11,000 emails in my inbox, because I asked them to email me across. I've just seen people are saying that I'm provoking anxiety for you, Joe. And Tom Rogers has said 11,000. Tom Rogers says 11,000 FML, and I'm not allowed to translate what FML means on the live radio. But those of you that are in the know, you know what it means. But yeah, I've never looked at it before. You were the guys are the first. I've broadcasted, and it's been like, what's the word? Immortalized now on Spotify and Podbean and whatever else, that people now know that I have over 11,000 emails in my inbox. And like I said, this is from when I started. I'm in my now, just about to start my 3rd year at this school. So if you do the maths and do the division, that's a lot of emails per year on average.
Yeah.
And I'm not ashamed of it, but I do regret. Do I regret not foldering? Not really, because I'm usually able to search, but I may actually move to do what you're doing and start moving some emails around. But there's 11,000 of them, so
it's a very long weekend.
Yeah, a long amount of time. Right, Joe, what we're going to do, I'm going to go through, if you're happy to stay on the line, I'm going to go through some other people's comments, because there was a lot. What I get on and talk about actually is Microsoft OneNote. Have you had any interaction with Microsoft OneNote, Joe?
OneNote, I've tried to use it. It just seems to be one of them that I need a little bit more time with it before I trust it.
What's this? Do you think I could ask my reception class to send me an email? So we've got a comment in the chat from Lee. I love this. She's asked, do you think I could ask my reception class to send me an email instead of tapping me on the thigh all the time? which you know what? I could never. I've got so much respect for people that work in primary school, because I consider myself, I consider myself a very patient person when it comes to teenagers and dealing with kind of teenage issues and their tantrums and their fallouts. I love it can be, and if he's listening, he's asleep moment. But if he ever listens back, Kingsley, you can be annoying sometimes. Either way, yeah, I've got full respect to primary school teachers, full respect. But on the OneNote note, and someone said, Leanne said, I feel no, I'm interested to know. What we saying about primary?
I just couldn't deal with it. I can't deal with one child when it's near me. Never mind when I've got 30 of them in a room. So 30 year sevens are fine. That's as young as I'm going. Any younger than that, no. I can deal with the hormones. I can't deal with the crying.
Yeah, crying, everything that they've lost everything. So and so's done something. I can't do the bickering. Either way, so what I've actually got OneNote on my screen. And this is literally the first time I've ever opened OneNote in my life. And the reason I opened OneNote is because there was a whole bunch of people on Twitter that were just singing its praises, talking about how it's essentially, they made it sound like it's like the most revolutionary organizational program that there is, and it's all in one place and blah, blah, blah. And I was thinking, right, let me check this out. So I've opened it, and it does look like a combination of everything. So it's in like, you can sort things into sections, but you can put videos in there like as if it's a PowerPoint. You can put links, of course, that's fair enough. You can record audio in there directly, apparently. You can put in meeting details. If I click on meeting details, it asks me to, it wants to sync my Microsoft account. Not doing that. The best thing about this, and I'm going to sound really geeky, you can put symbols, equations, and math stuff in there. It's just, I'm a maths teacher. The fact that I can do that on here as well is good, just like on Word. And then I think it's also linked to Microsoft Forms, and it just seems it's a hybrid of what looks to be Word, PowerPoint. What else in there? The audio bit is new for me. And I don't know much about it, but people, if you're looking for a new program to maybe keep yourself organized, I can't vouch for it personally, but if you're listening, Microsoft OneNote has been vouched for by a lot of professionals on my kind of Twitter thread. So feel free to check it out. They were singing its praise. I think someone said that, let me just, if I can find the tweets about it. They said something about you can share it with people. You can build, yeah, so this is Mr. P Foodie actually comes on the show quite often in the studio. He says, I use MS OneNote and wouldn't go back to a paper planner. He says he uses his iPad to walk around school. And he says, so the features of OneNote, personalized tabs, sounds like Excel a little bit. You can access it through Microsoft Teams. You can share through it, and many, many more, and something else. And you can do shared notebooks, apparently. I don't know much about what shared notebooks mean. If there's someone in the studio that knows a lot about OneNote, please let me know, because they're talking about sharing notebooks. So I think you can get a template. If I create a template, I can just share it with someone else. They can then use my template, something like that. Who knows? But they were talking about OneNote as one way of organizing themselves. And then again, what else we got on here? Someone said, yeah, old school diary. I love this one. Someone said, key dates, deadlines, and appointments go into an old school diary. Everything else is retained centrally in my head and prioritized accordingly. Bureaucratic nonsense tends to filter down, important stuff up.
See, I have an issue with paper diaries because I don't look ahead in the future. So if I sit there in September and put all of my important dates in, I won't realize it's an important date until I turn to that page and I go, well, that's today. And I haven't realized because I haven't looked through.
Yeah, no, dates, and I'm bad. I think I'm personally quite bad for, like, because if someone would tell me, oh, we've got, I don't know, for example, I don't know, open evening on, I don't know when it is, whatever date the open evening is, maybe it'll be in 2 weeks' time. And I can put it in my calendar, but there's nothing else reminding me. I don't set up a reminder saying, oh, open evenings in a week, open evenings in 2 days, for example.
I'm exactly the same. I don't see it and be, right, I need to check next week to see if there's anything for next week. It's not on the radar at all.
Yeah, agreed. And it always ends up being a surprise. You're only turn and people said, "Oh yeah, it's open even tomorrow." You're like, oh yeah, sorry, it is in my calendar. I just didn't look. Sorry, it's Friday, but I say tomorrow. Yeah, maybe it's a Friday, it's on a Monday. But I love the fact that this person said that everything's retained centrally in my head, just that natural human filtering system. And I get, do you know what? When I saw the tweet, I get what they mean, because, and I do this sometimes, not like deliberately, but you notice the things that are most important, human nature says you tend to remember. And things that yeah, someone maybe asked you to do, or you've told yourself, yeah, I need to do this, but maybe it's not the be all and end all. It does naturally filter out. And so that's what this person said. And they just said, I keep it in my head, and if it's important, I'll remember to do it, and if it's nonsense, it'll filter down the priorities list, which I found quite entertaining. But yeah, that's quite a good one. What else someone say? Oh, talking about post-its, Joe, what's your connection with post-it notes?
Oh, again, give me a piece of paper, I will lose it or forget about it. I've tried Post-its. I do use Post-its for one reason. If I've marked a set of books and a pupil hasn't been in when we've done time or whatever, if they haven't been in, I put a Post-it note on the front saying, you have X, Y, or Z to respond to from this lesson on this date. And that is the only thing I use Post-it notes for, just to remind pupils that they've got stuff in their book to do. But otherwise, I am useless at little pieces of paper. I have lots of different coloured Post-it notes. They're just still in a plastic wrapper. I've never used them.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I used to buy. I used to buy Post-its myself, and then I went through. Like I said, when I was first year, my head of year role, I had a little desk. I just got really excited about having a desk, like a proper desk in an office for the first time. And my desk ended up being more yellow than it was white, because it was just covered in these Post-it notes. And it ended up, and I didn't mind it, because you can move them, you can like I organize them a little bit, not in anything, nothing fancy, but really important stuff was move closer, blah, blah, blah. And then there was a very satisfying bit where you've done it, so you can scrunch it 3-pointer into the bin the other side of the room. That was quite nice. But when you would lose a Post-it, what are you like? There's nothing else to fall back on. And if it fell, or someone could, a kid,
Post-it note. Like, don't forget to look at this Post-it note that's next to this Post-it note, and
exactly. And when I go
Inception.
But no, I went through that phase. I quickly moved away from it. It just wasn't sustainable. Wasn't sustainable at all. But I did do that my first year as a head of year. I was all about the Post-its. And I do get what you mean, though. Putting them on if you're putting on something that's going to be moved, then it makes sense to have something on top of it, so that if you're moving it to another location or whatever else, like books or exam papers or whatever else, and having a Post-it on there is useful, I guess. Especially if it's something that you don't actually need to act on in the future. It's just a reminder for you or your class or whatever else. But yeah, that's fair enough. And then what else we got? Anyone in the chat, feel free, like I said, contribute. How do you stay organized? We're going to talk about this for literally another couple minutes, 4 or 5 minutes before going to the news and some hearing from some of our sponsors and everything else. But what else does someone say? Microsoft To Do, apparently someone's recommended. I don't know much about Microsoft To Do, but apparently that's another program. Google Tasks. Again, Google Tasks sounds like something that synchronizes between your laptop potentially and your phone, I imagine. I don't know much about Google Tasks. Someone says that they organize their tasks into must do, should do, and could do. They didn't say much more about how they do that, but they kind of put them into must do categories, should do categories, and could do categories. And my response is, I know exactly how that could do category is going to end up. I know exactly.
It's a don't do category.
It's a don't do. It's a won't do. It's a won't do. If you say, oh yeah, I could do this, when you've got shoulds and musts, it ain't gonna happen. Then what else we have? Yeah, someone else was a stand for the Post-it notes, and then we had one more person that said he does a bit of everything. Meetings into a virtual calendar. I've got really good in my virtual calendar this year. I was poor with it last year, but on my Outlook calendar, my lessons are now in my Outlook calendar. And the reason why that suits me a lot more is I'm in a lot of external meetings for safeguarding reasons. And at the end of the meetings, they always say things like, right, we're going to book it for 2 weeks' time at 9:30 a.m. on a Wednesday. Is that all right for everyone? And I used to sit there in the meeting being like, what in the world lesson will I have on Tuesday the 9th at 9:30? But now I've set up my kind of Outlook calendar with recurring events with all my lessons in there, plus my duties, duties, meetings, everything else in my Outlook calendar. And it means now I had a recent actual meeting a couple of days ago I had one. And they asked the very question saying, right, we're doing 10 a.m. on this day, 2 weeks time. And I was able to flick through and say, yep, that's fine. I'll only need cover, as opposed to thinking I'm missing another meeting. So I find that very useful for myself. I don't know if anyone else does anything similar, but I find that very useful for myself. Do you use your calendar, Joel, just on the last kind of note?
I have everything on my calendar, but because it's mainly my spreadsheet that I focus on. I have spreadsheets with the times on for week A and B, the period, and then if I've got something that I need to do, I just put it in that block and then add a comment to it. So it's the same one I use for my lessons, and if I've got anything extra, like a meeting or something after school, I just put it on that exact same thing, because then that's on my phone. Then it's saved everywhere. Like I save mine to Google Drive, so I can access it from home and there's no issue. But now a calendar just makes me nervous.
So if you had a meeting that was taking place in 2 weeks' time during, I don't know, at this time, where would that go?
So I have a different tab for each fortnight. So I go to that fortnight and then put that on there.
I see. Right. I thought you had, in my head, I thought you had just, for example, week A, week B, because obviously your timetable will occur. I thought you just had that, when really you've got you've mapped out the year essentially, or the term maybe, in terms of weeks, and then you can put things in when they occur.
Yeah, so basically it's just for each term, and then at the end of each term I make the next term's one. So if anyone, I've got my duties on there, and put comments if there's something that's happening in that lesson or happening before or afterwards to remind me.
Yeah. Right, perfect. And then last one, Leanne said, just to finish off, Leanne said, old school notebook, she doesn't trust the IT. We're the opposite. I've put my faith. Yeah. I think my life's been built on IT, so I trust it. With my life. And I know if I lose my notebook, then I've got nothing. I remember whenever I lose my notebook, my world will crumble, because I just feel like, I've got nothing to fall back on. Either way, listen, Joel, thank you so much. Thank you very much for calling in and sharing your gems. And do you know what? I've got a takeaway. You know, at the end of CPD sessions, they say stuff like, what are your main takeaways from the session? And mine is trying to get my emails into some sort of folders for just where they came from, that I can go back. That too. I've got to think about whether I'm going to do that. What will happen is this time next year or something, it'll be up to about 20,000, and I wouldn't have got around to it. But who knows? One can dream. A man can dream. But listen, Joel, thank you very much for coming on the show. I appreciate you calling in, and stay tuned. We're going to be talking about the new COVID rules in school, and how people's thoughts are on these new rules, and also whether we should keep summer schools forever, or whether we just have them just every year, summer school. I want what people's thoughts are. But I'm going to sign you out now, Joel. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
He says slowly. No worries. Cheers. Love a live caller. Right. They've got a lot of kind of housekeeping to do again. We're going to go to the news. I might do a bit of reaction to news, and then we got to hear from our sponsors at some point in the near future. Otherwise, Tom Rogers will have a go at me for not fulfilling my duties. So on the other side of this, we'll be talking about the new COVID rules. First of all, do you know them? And if you don't know them, I'll be kind of clarifying them to you and how they affect young people in your school. And also we'll be talking about summer schools as well. See you on the other side.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
This is your latest Teachers Talk Radio News with Gail Glenn. On Friday, the Joint Committee for Vaccination and Immunisation said that it would not recommend vaccinating all 12 to 15-year-olds. They would, however, widen the existing programme to include more children in that age group with health conditions. Several national newspapers have reported that government ministers remain keen to offer vaccinations to all children in that age group despite recommendations. The JCVI stated on Friday that coronavirus presented only a small risk to children, and that as a result of this, the benefits of vaccination were not great enough to support mass vaccination for this age group. Use of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines has been approved for those aged 12 and over by the independent medicines regulator, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Board. The Education Secretary for England, Gavin Williamson, has said on a previous occasion that he hopes very much that the under-16s could be vaccinated. Northern Ireland Health Minister Robin Swan, however, has said that the issue of a wider rollout warrants further consideration. In the UK, education leaders are calling for all teachers to receive bereavement training, given the large numbers of COVID-19 victims. So far, only a small number of teachers have received this training, as it's voluntary. The charity Child Bereavement UK has said that 86% of teachers have reported experiencing a death in the school community, and almost 3/4 have said they are teaching students affected by the death of someone significant. Bereavement training for teachers is being driven by the Centre for the Art of Dying Well at St Mary's University in West London. Course leader Lise Gordon said they aim to normalise the conversations around death for children. They're looking at things around the language we use to talk about death. Ms Gordon told Sky News the vital training should be mandatory for new and current teachers across the UK. The Child Bereavement UK helpline has reported that 16% of calls over the past year have been from teachers seeking guidance around bereavement. This has been your weekend education news briefing.
Had to get the transition music in once today. Yes. Right. Welcome back to the Sunday Lunch Show with me, Kalil Rouse, on Teachers Talk Radio. During that news segment, a number of people entered the live studio. Some of you may have left because the numbers stayed pretty the same. Either way, thank you for joining. You're listening to Sunday Lunch Show with me, Kalil Rouse. We've just had a live caller. Joel just called in, and we were talking about keeping ourselves organized. And I was sharing what I do. He shares what he does. I think it was Mr. Tom Hopkins Burke or someone else has kind of outed me on Twitter. And they didn't just use my Twitter handle. They used my first name plus my Twitter handle, which I never really understand. Twitter handle has my first name in anyway. And they're just saying to the whole of the Twitter sphere that I have 11,000 emails in my inbox. Come at me. I've got no shame whatsoever. No shame. But yeah, this next little bit, they mentioned it in the actual news segment about COVID and everything else and the new rules and the fact that the government are not recommending mass vaccinations. Let me know your thoughts on all this. So on the other side of some hearing from our sponsors, my kind of pitch to you is what's your response? So the government are now saying that they're not recommending, there's no recommendations being made. There's no plan at the moment for mass vaccination of kind of 12 to 15-year-olds, like healthy 12 to 15-year-olds. School age, that's year 8, year 7 up to year 9 or 10. No recommendations there. So let me know your thoughts on that. Also, if you know the new COVID rules, essentially under 18s are exempt from having to self-isolate if someone in their house has a positive case, for example. That is also the case. So an under 18 is now exempt. So they don't have to self-isolate. If their parent or carer tests positive, an under 18 can still just go to school, and they'll be advised to take a PCR test. But in the meantime, they attend school as normal. So let me know your thoughts on that, because I've got no other scheduled guests this next kind of segment. That Joel wasn't even a scheduled guest. He just called in because you'd like to do me a solid, and I appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts. Type in the chat. And on the other side of hearing from our sponsors, we're going to get into all things COVID related. It's not away. I feel like we've come full circle. But just in a vaccinated circle now. But I feel like we've come full circle, boy. On the other side of this, let's get into COVID in schools.
Every teacher loves stationery, right? Imagine getting a selection of fun, beautiful and unique stationery items designed and selected especially for teachers, delivered through your door every month. You need to check out teacherslovestationery.club.
I'm always so excited when the box arrives. It's such a treat.
My Teachers Love Stationery Club box is just a little treat to myself every month.
It's always full of delightful and surprising items, including some really good quality stationery brands like Faber-Castell and Stabilo.
And because you never know what you're going to get, it makes it even more fun and special when you get it.
It feels really great to be supporting a family business that's run by real teachers. I can't help feeling like they just know what I'm going to enjoy using stationery-wise better than I do myself.
Visit teacherslovestationery.club and enter the code TTRadio when you buy your first stationery box to save £2 today. teacherslovestationery.club.
He's only gone and done the double transition music. Crazy. Right. So that was an advert on behalf of Teachers Love Stationery. So if you're a stationery lover, then go check it out and get yourself some I know school year started, but by all means, go check those guys out. Right. I linked an article on my Twitter, and it's from Schools Week. And this, when I say full circle, this headline just sounded like whenever COVID, my knowledge of years is poor, but it sounded like we've gone full circle. The article written by James Carr, released on Friday, says government is allowing mass infection of children, scientists warn. And I just read it like, oh my, we're back here again. We are back here again with people knowing that COVID spreads in schools. Government knows that COVID spreads in schools, but they don't do anything about it. Well, not anything about it, but they want to prioritize children's education, which essentially means keep them in school and not kind of go to remote learning again. But we know that means COVID will spread. If there's a case in school, it will spread. So scientists have warned that the government, this is me reading the article, by the way, this is not my words. Scientists have warned the government back to school plans are reckless, is what they've said, and are allowing the mass infection of children. Reckless. That is a bold accusation. Reckless. They're not assessing the risk. They're just going with it. And there was a letter apparently from the British Medical Journal that accused Gavin Williamson of endangering the health of hundreds of thousands of pupils and not following medical advice. How are we still here? Every time something happens, the government officials are apparently not following medical advice. How are we still here? And the kind of British Medical Journal proposed their own kind of 9-point plan of keeping children safe. And this is about kind of like bringing the masks back in classrooms and also offering vaccines and reinstating bubbles and all those things. On the vaccine front, I don't know what your thoughts are. Let me know your thoughts on this. So from what I gather, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong, this is not the gospel truth, this is my interpretation, is the government are kind of weighing up the amount of manpower or effort it would take to vaccinate all healthy 12 to 15-year-olds, and they're weighing that up with the health benefits, I imagine, to the wider community. And they're essentially coming to the decision that it's not worth it. That's my interpretation. They're basically saying it's not worth it because even if a kid gets it, this is their thinking, I believe, because even if a kid gets it, they're not going to get it that bad. So what's the point of vaccinating them if they're healthy and they're likely to not be affected that negatively? So if we do a mass rollout, that's a lot of resources expended for, in relative terms, not much benefit. That's my interpretation of their approach. If you disagree or think I'm wrong, let me know. I could be wrong, but that's my interpretation. So that's why they're not doing mass vaccinations. And what the British Medical Journal is saying is they're highlighting the risk that COVID presents for children. They're saying there's been over 2,300 hospitalizations, still not as much as my 11,000 emails, but 2,300 hospitalizations of under 18s in England due to COVID in the last 2 months alone. the statistics, and it's estimated that there are 34,000 children living with long COVID already. And they're saying that long COVID can be associated with multi-system disease in some children, including persistent cognitive symptoms, allowing mass infection of, so therefore, allowing mass infection of children is reckless. This is what the British Medical Journal are saying. They're saying COVID is real in kids. It affects kids, and you can get long COVID in all these thousands of children. And if you're not going to do mass vaccinations, you're not going to put things in place, you're just going to allow the kids to mix willy-nilly, it's reckless, because we're just throwing them into the COVID-shaped lion's den, whatever you want to call it. And then, yeah, so let me know your thoughts on this, guys. Me personally, I don't know if I've even kind of brought my thoughts all together. It makes sense to vaccinate people. If you've got the vaccine to hand, then try to vaccinate as many people as possible. Is my approach. I keep seeing these figures of what percent was it recently of adults have been vaccinated? Above 70, easy. Above 70%, I think, or have had the double jab, I believe. But again, correct me if I'm wrong. This isn't the gospel truth. This is my own recollections. I haven't done the extensive research. And then, yeah, next little bit is therefore the COVID rules. And the rules now, as I mentioned, there are exemptions for self-isolation. One of the exemptions is if you've been double vaccinated more than 2 weeks ago. I think most of you know that one. But they've also introduced an exemption for if you're just under 18. So if you're under 18, you're exempt from self-isolation if someone else has tested positive and you're a close contact. Of course, if a school-aged child is positive with COVID, they still need to self-isolate as normal. But the difference compared to last year now is if I don't know, let's go for Imran, all about equality and diversity in 2021. If Imran's foster parent, oh, look how diverse I am now. Listen, you got to be. And you may laugh at what I'm doing, but I think it's very powerful when, this is a tangent, of course, it's very powerful when teachers and curricula and everything else incorporate real life scenarios that aren't spoken about often. So, for example, Imran with a foster carer. That happens, of course it does, but we don't often see it in textbooks and everything else. Either way, side note, tangent. So let's say Imran's foster carer comes down and has got a positive lateral flow test. Easily could happen. The rule now is Imran still comes to school. That's the rule. What would happen before. We know that close people in the house, they have to isolate. That's not the case for under 18. So Imran would still come to school. I believe NHS kind of track and trace, those guys would get in touch. Oh, sorry, let me correct this. Positive lateral flow. So therefore what should happen is the foster carer should get a PCR test just to confirm it. And that's always something that I think a lot of parents forget. They always have them. I don't know about you guys in your schools, everything else, but a lot of parents used to call up, say, oh, we got a positive case. And then would be like, all the alarm bells will go off in school, and we try to work it out, and we'll try to talk about bubbles closing and close contact tracing. And then later on, they tell us it was on a lateral flow. And rules don't apply to lateral flows. Rules only apply to PCR tests. So either way, let's say Imran's foster carer, so positive lateral flow test on a Monday. So Imran has to come to school either way. So then the carer's got to then book a PCR test. That could happen on the Tuesday, but Imran's still got to come to school. And then maybe they do the test on the Tuesday. They might not get the results back till Wednesday or Thursday, maybe Wednesday if they're lucky. And maybe it comes back positive. Imran's still been at school. And it's not until the positive test comes back on the Wednesday, let's say, that track and trace get in touch. And then they say, yo, you're positive for COVID. Who've been your close contacts? Then they'll say, yep, I live with my foster son. He's called Imran. And they're like, yeah, it might be worth him getting a PCR test. And then maybe Imran gets a PCR test on Thursday and realizes he's positive. And then we're just thinking, oh, my word. So those 3 or 4 days, he's just been trotting around school, following the rules, following the guidance, but could have easily infected a number of kids. And it's a bit of a worry, isn't it? For me anyway. I get why they're saying don't isolate, because they're trying to prioritize people's education. They're saying we need kids in school. Kids have missed too much school. I get it. But at the same time, the idea that someone gets and even if they get a positive PCR test, you still, the close contact, if you're under 18, still goes to school. Unless their own PCR test then comes back in positive a day or two later. That's the only time they're have to isolate. Mad. I just hope, and like, I just fingers crossed that you don't get mass cases in schools. But it can happen easily. And then, so then another thing that's different this year, if you weren't aware, is that bubbles, there are no longer any bubbles. I'm sure your induction, your SLT have explained this to you, there's no bubbles. So if someone in a class tests positive, there's now no whole class bubbles being sent home. So again, they just advise people to just get a test. So listen, I get it. I understand the rationale, but I just hope, fingers crossed, it doesn't turn into a lot of cases in schools, because we all know it's not just about young people and their health, it's about their loved ones at home and who may be more vulnerable than the young people health-wise. Let me know your thoughts on all these COVID guidance. If you think I've missed anything, let me know. But in the grand scheme of things, we could potentially have a lot of kids walking around who have been in contact with someone who is positive and could be spreading the virus, and we wouldn't know about it until a good few days later when the PCR tests come in. That's my thinking on it anyway. I'm a little bit concerned. I understand why they're doing it, but I'm concerned. What I need to do now, again, just so I can fulfill my duty, is we need to listen to another one of our sponsors. On the other side, I'll be talking more things COVID, and also about summer schools. So if you're involved in a summer school, I would love to hear from you. Just see what your summer school was like. How was it kind of formulated, the structure-wise? What did the kids do? How was engagement level? If you did summer school, it'd be great to hear from you. And then if you didn't do summer school, we got your thoughts on it. It'd be good to hear. And whether you think summer school should just become the norm, regardless of COVID and the pandemic and everything else, for years to come. Do you think summer schools should just be the norm from now on? Week after breaking up, summer school every year. Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know your thoughts on the other side of this.
Creative Resources, made for teachers by teachers. At Creative Resources, we've been rethinking what a classroom can be. We've created a huge range of more than 2,500 original and exciting resources that span across more than 15 different subject areas. Whether you're looking for primary or secondary level resources, careers options, PSHE, arts or humanities, Creative Resources have the resources for you. We offer full curriculum packages and unique, challenging escape rooms themed on topics such as Shakespeare, Tudors, and fractions. We have quizzes, task cards, Tarsia puzzles, and lots more. Better still, more than 100 resources can be accessed for free. Just visit our website www.cre8tiveresources.com. You can get 10% off any order you make on our website by using the discount code TTRadio. Creative Resources, made for teachers by teachers. Every teacher loves stationery, right? Imagine getting a selection of fun, beautiful and unique stationery items designed and selected especially for teachers, delivered through your door every month. You need to check out teacherslovestationery.club.
I'm always so excited when the box arrives. It's such a treat.
My Teachers Love Stationery Club box is just a little treat to myself every month.
It's always full of delightful and surprising items, including some really good quality stationery brands like Faber-Castell and Stabilo.
And because you never know what you're going to get, it makes it even more fun and special when you get it.
It feels really great to be supporting a family business that's run by real teachers. I can't help feeling like they just know what I'm going to enjoy using stationery-wise better than I do myself.
Visit teacherslovestationery.club and enter the code TTRadio when you buy your first stationery box to save £2 today. teacherslovestationery.club. Introducing the Leadership Masterclass series by Diana Osagi. Learn how to ditch your fears and develop your leadership confidence. How to deal with difficult colleagues. How to thrive when you lead in a challenging environment. And how to get colleagues to buy into your vision. Join Diana for her online leadership masterclasses starting on the 10th of July and running all the way through the summer. These sessions are the perfect way to prepare and refresh for the next academic year and beyond. Book your place at courageousleadership.co.uk/events now. The first 50 leaders to sign up get an additional free mini coaching session with Diana herself. Don't miss this. Courageous Leadership Masterclasses at courageousleadership.co.uk/events.
Hello, and thank you to everyone that is listening in live at the moment, or maybe you're listening back on catch up. Just a couple housekeeping things. If you're listening live, thank you very much. Give me a comment in the chat. I feel like I want to interact with some people more. Let me know where you're calling, where you're listening in from. What's your kind of role in schools? What are your hopes for this upcoming term or week or day, tomorrow? Who knows? Just let me know. So you listen to Teachers Talk Radio. If you want to listen back, if you just joined late and you thought, oh, this guy sounds interesting, I'll listen to what he said beforehand. Then head to ttradio.org/listen back and just search my name. My name is Kalil, which is Kalil, and you'll find out, you'll see kind of this show and previous shows. You'll also see all our previous shows from our hosts, our wonderful hosts on Teachers Talk Radio. We are a vast network. There's so many shows, so many guests happening literally every day of the week, in the evenings, mornings, and everything else. So head to ttradio.org if you'd like to get more information about Teachers Talk Radio, or if you'd like to become a host. If you think I can do this, I have the capability to just talk sometimes to myself for 30, 40 minutes on end. It's a skill. It's not easy. I'm going to tell you now, it's not easy. It's not easy to just chat to yourself for a little while. But yeah, if you think you can do this, or you'd like to do this, or you've got an idea for a show, or you want to be a guest, head to ttradio.org or at ttradio 2021 on Twitter and send us, I say us, I'm not in control of the Twitter account, but send a tweet, send us a DM, and we'll get back to you. We've had a number of people asking to be guests and such. So you can do that as well. And if you want to be a guest right now, then just click that grey phone icon at the bottom of your Podbean app. Then you just call in and speak to me at any point. What I want to actually talk about, I was talking about COVID just now, and prior we're talking about organization and everything else. So this 9-point plan, I was reading it through just now, kind of refresh my memory. There's some interesting things on here. Be interesting to see what you guys think. So this 9-point plan has come from the British Medical Journal, and it's supposed to be about how to protect pupils and the NHS. That's its aim. Its first kind of point in the plan, point 1 is what it's hoping for, is an unsurprising one. It wants vaccines for all 12 to 15-year-olds with rollout in schools to maximize access and uptakes. So they're asking for all 12 to 15-year-olds to be vaccinated, but also for schools to start vaccinations in school, just like we maybe do the HPV in year 8 and whatever else we do. I think I get the impression they're hoping that we can do their in-house vaccinations. As long as you bring in the professionals, I've got no issue with that. The next one, they want immediately reinstate face coverings for secondary school students and staff in classrooms and communal areas, as long as community transition remains high. So basically they're saying keep masks in schools. I don't know what your school's saying. Let me know what your school's saying in terms of face coverings, because as we know, the wider guidance is it's up to you now whether you want to wear a face cover or not. They're still recommended and advised, but they're not going to be enforced. So we just kind of had to echo that in school. There are some members of staff that will continue to wear some. I imagine there'll be some students that will continue to wear them, but they're not compulsory, they're not mandated. They are just recommended in those kind of indoor communal areas. So they're saying they want them to just reinstate face coverings en masse, essentially. Then they're saying they want investment in building ventilation in schools, some sort of filtration. I'm gonna admit ignorance on that. I've got no idea about CO2 monitoring of indoor spaces. No idea what that means. They want bubbles to be reinstated. They want contact tracing to be done by schools, because at the moment now, contact tracing doesn't need to be done by schools anymore. The track and trace are in control of contact tracing. So it slows down, because we can contact trace in a minute. I can talk to 2 kids and they'll tell me who so-and-so was. If I needed to, I could talk to 2 kids or staff and they'll tell me exactly who they'll be in contact with. But they're taking that responsibility away from schools. They're saying, don't do that. This British Medical Journal is saying, don't do that. Keep schools being able to contact trace. They also want mandatory isolation and PCR testing of all contacts of cases in bubbles and households. So what I was talking about earlier about the exemption for under 18s, the British Medical Journal are saying, nah. They're saying, bring back mandatory isolation and PCR testing. Because at the moment, it's only going to be advised. PCR tests of household contacts is only going to be advised for under 18s. So they're saying that's a bad idea. Bring back the mandatory one. Let me know your thoughts on that. They've then said improve financial and practical support for self-isolation, as this will improve uptake of rapid tests in schools. Don't know what that means. Then it's gone for provide remote learning options, including Wi-Fi, tablets, laptops for clinically vulnerable students and those living at home. So that if you've got a student who's clinically vulnerable, not able to be in school, they're saying provide the support, tablets, laptops for those so that they can work from home, essentially. This one piqued my interest. They're saying here, their recommendations, this is the British Medical Journal, their recommendation is remove mandatory attendance policies and prosecutions and fines for parents so that a parent can make a choice of learning modality that is in the best interest of their child. So my understanding of this is if you've got a parent that's saying, I don't feel comfortable sending my child to school, I want my child to work from home or be at home or learn remotely, they're saying parents should be allowed to do that without fear of being prosecuted because of mandatory attendance policies. Thoughts, people? What are your thoughts on that? So that one did tweak my interest a little bit. They were saying parents should be allowed to keep their kid at home and learn remotely. Me thinking practically, like I can just imagine you have a class of 30. If this were to be the case, and I don't know, 7 of them are at home learning remotely, and the rest of the 27, quick maths, rest of the 20, wow, I said 27, 23. I even said quick maths afterwards. What an idiot. So you could have 7 of them at home and the remaining 23 in the classroom. And then they're saying that should be fine. We can allow, I don't know if they want the home learners to, I don't know, learn through a broadcast of the lesson. It just sounds very impractical and very difficult to regulate and do as a teacher. It's all well and good saying, yeah, keep a kid at home, but they need to be getting the same level or standard of education as the rest of the class. Can that be done remotely when the rest of the class are having it done in person? I don't think so. So yeah, that's what they're advising. And the final one they've advised in their 9-point plan is provide mental health support in schools for students and staff. I'm going to applaud that one. That is a big one. In my sphere of safeguarding and well-being, mental health is huge. And I know that a lot of schools are lacking the professional support. CAMs are overstretched. There are numerous kind of bodies that give counselors, that provide professional counselors in schools, but it never seems to be enough. So yeah, if there could ever be any funding put into any sector that I could choose, I'd want some sort of social care and mental health support for young people, because they are struggling at the moment. COVID and everything else is taking its toll on a lot of young people. Lockdown has taken its toll, and there's just not enough support in schools for young people's mental health. You have to end up giving them, I don't know, mentors who aren't trained. But you can do a little bit of mental health training on the side, but they're not trained in it professionally. It's not their job. So if any more money could be put into that, I'd be all for it. So those were the 9 recommendations by the British Medical Journal. So yeah, if you have any thoughts or responses to those, please let me know. It is 2:15. A little bit to go, but I might not even make it to 2:30. Depends on how this last conversation goes. And the last little bit is talking about summer schools. I'm going to admit, I didn't do my school's summer school. I refused. I said, no, thanks. I said, no, thanks. And I've got no shame in admitting that. I said, it's not for me. I want to enjoy, I want to have my full 5.5 weeks. Caveat, the fact we didn't get 6 weeks really annoyed me. But 5.5 weeks, I wanted my full 5.5 weeks. So I said no to, I said, no, I don't want to do a summer school. I'm sorry. I don't think I even apologized. Not like I wasn't rude about it. Just be honest. I'm a consummate professional. But I said, I think you had to volunteer for it, and I just didn't do it. It wasn't for me. I didn't do it. So if you did do a summer school, Mr. Tom Rogers has said, I don't know how people did summer schools. Listen, it's not for me. If you did do a summer school, let me know how it was. What did the kids do? What did you get out of it? Do you think it was worthwhile? is it really my kind of cynical view on it was the purpose to set them up for starting the educational journey in school, or was their purpose to get the kids excited about secondary school? Because the two are different. Because you can drum up a whole bunch of excitement about coming to secondary school, but are they going to walk in knowing what's going to happen in terms of like the bread and butter day-to-day functions of the school? Who knows? All the lessons and that kind of stuff. If you did a summer school, let me know what it was like, because I saw some images on social media about summer schools. It looked like it's not really fun. And I'm not saying school's not fun, but it looked like really fun. Like they're doing things that they won't do on a Monday afternoon when they've got maths and English, for example. They were doing, I saw a whole bunch, I saw inflatables. It looked fun. I was like, whoa, I wanted to be there afterwards. It's so bouncy castles, everything else. But those are the only, my kind of impression is skewed by what I've only seen on social media. So it'd be ideal if I could hear from someone about what they did in summer schools. Did they learn? Did they do maths and English? I hope they did. Did they do revision or of core content taught in primary school? Did they? Because I thought summer schools are supposed to aid the transition. And when I think of the transition, I think the academic transition, because they've missed a lot of learning. So the whole idea that you could try catch them up in a week is nonsense, first and foremost. So what was the purpose? I genuinely want to know the purpose. Was it to drum up excitement for them to start at your secondary school? If so, then I understand why I was seeing a lot of activities taking place, team building stuff, or was it for them to meet new people? That's a good outcome for summer schools. If it's just about building friendships and that kind of stuff, I think that would be if they framed it that way, then I'd buy in more. But don't tell me it's about educational catch-up and transitioning academically when it's a week and we've missed over a year's worth of consistent education. So I wasn't buying that as a rationale. But if it's to kind of ease their fears and to get them to potentially build relationships and friendships before they even walk in the gates in September, then that'll be, I get that. That makes sense to me. I understand that. But let me know what you guys think about summer schools. So we've got, Sobia saying colleagues said pay. That's always a caveat. So colleagues said pay was good. Day rate for teachers. Listen, day rate for teachers is always nice. Whenever you do these summer schools or you do anything like on a kind of ad hoc day-by-day basis, that day rate is nice. And then when you do the maths and you calculate how much your salary equates to on a day-to-day basis, it is crud. When you talk about how much you earn, I tell you now, if you work out like, and I know some people have done it, I don't recommend doing it because it's quite depressing. If you do the maths and a division and you work out how much your kind of hourly rate is or your day rate is, taking into account how many hours you actually work as a teacher, you don't get a lot as a teacher. But the day rate for these kind of summer schools, I get that. If you wanted to do it for the money, then I understand. If you wanted an extra bit of pocket change for the summer, I could have definitely done with it in hindsight. I could have definitely done with it because I spent a whole bunch of money in summer. I could have done with an extra bit of pocket money. So yeah, if you did it for the money, then fair enough. We've got someone's commented. Their name is, I'm going to apologize. This is preparing me for when I meet my students. Your name, I believe, Nairaneza. I'm going to go with that. Nairaneza. If I mispronounce it, I apologize. That's good etiquette, by the way. If you're an ECT listening, apologize in advance. Yeah, apologize in advance. Or even better, ask them, how do I pronounce your name, please? Just so I can get it right first time. And get them to just tell you how to pronounce their name. And don't let them give you any kind of, just call me Dave, by the way. Don't do that nonsense. What is your name? What do your parents call you? They call me this. Cool. I will endeavor to call you that name as well. Just give me some time if it's one that's more difficult to pronounce. So, Nairaneza Olive from Rwanda, South Province, Uga, Gisagara District, and your teacher of biology. Thank you for listening all the way from Rwanda. We global. Thank you for listening. I wonder I don't know if Rwandan schools have started yet. My students have only come in for their kind of testing, in like their COVID testing. And what have we got? Their first induction day isn't until Wednesday coming. We've got year 7 induction day on Wednesday. We've got year 8 to 9 induction day on Thursday. And then we've got everyone comes in on Friday. So my school has quite a late start in terms of students coming in. I don't know I get the impression a lot of kids are coming in tomorrow. Let me know when your kids start. But I get the impression my school is quite late with all this. Either way, on these summer school bits for the last little segment of the show, I found an article on TES. and it was entitled 4 Reasons Why Summer Schools Should Happen Every Year. So their argument is this should not just be a COVID 1-off or 2-off. This should be something that we do forever and ever. That is their logic. And they had 4 reasons. It was written by Naomi Sykes. Shout out to you, on the 3rd of September. So Friday just gone. So here's her reasons. First one, she said, it's a chance to get to know the school logistically. And she said, we can all recall those nerves when we started high school as a doe-eyed year 7. And even as an adult, starting a job amid the logistics of a new school is daunting. I saw that recently. We had a lot of new staff joining my school, and they just looked like lost puppies. It was very funny. I helped them out, of course, but it's very funny to see people just look lost, especially because my school, every corridor looks exactly the same. So they had no idea where they were going. So yeah, that is always quite daunting. So she's saying that summer schools are a chance for the year group attending to explore the school, see the grounds together in a quieter summer period, and that could be a benefit. And they give them a head start to school life by getting to learn the way around the school, layout of the buildings, and give them a sense of where their educational journey will take place. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, we do an induction day for year 7s where it's only them in the building. They get to go on a tour and everything else. But I think a week of being in a school, you'd obviously learn a lot more than just one day. But my counter is kids have seemed to do all right for the last X amount of decades. They've done all right. They eventually learn the logistics. They eventually get there. And it's character building, as my mum would always say. Shout out to you, Mumsy, for listening. It's character building. You got to get somewhere new. You learn it eventually. You ask questions and you learn the ins and outs of the building layout. Well, fair enough. Next one. Her second argument is making friends and bonding with peers. And this is a summer school. She's saying it gives additional insight into who would need support making friends. And you can already see who might be the more social, who might struggle socially. And it's useful providing staff with the soft data to get to know the students and understand the potential dynamics of the year group prior to September. Okay. I get that. You get to see a bit more about the students before they come in. So you start September knowing already who are your kind of sociable ones, who are your gregarious ones, who are the ones that may need a bit more support socially. I think that's useful. I think one thing that, again, my school does a lot of things that I'm happy with. My school gets in touch with primary schools in the last term. So I had a lot of conversations with primary schools where they would essentially get in touch with us and they'll give us a profile of the kids. We do what we call home visit calls, which means we actually arrange a Teams call with every kid that's joining us and their parents and carers. And we find out about the kid, what their interests, their academic kind of background, generally, not specifics, just generally. And we find out all that soft information before they join us, so we can get a bit of a profile of the students before they join. But the summer school can serve that purpose as well. So you can I think it's useful to find out about students before they come in, rather than things catching you by surprise. Definitely, I'm for that. And she said that it provides opportunity for teachers to reassure nervous and shy individuals that they'll be offered the most positive start to school. Friendships blossoming, so on and so forth. Okay, social aspects, I get it. Then the third point she's making is the transition from primary to high school. You should say I hate saying high school, secondary school. So students have missed crucial time in year 6 to be prepared for high school. Apparently, students benefited from first-hand experience of expectations that would have otherwise been lost. Examples include when schools use routines. So again, just teaching the routines for managing behavior. All this can happen in an induction day. My counter to that is all this can happen in an induction day. Doesn't have to take my summer away. It doesn't have to take my summer away. All these things, if a school wanted to, the first couple of days year 7s are in school. I don't know how many schools do that. I feel like most schools do these days. You have induction days for the pupils where you go through expectations and routines and tours and everything. That can take place in September. It doesn't need to take place at the end of July and take away my summer. But listen, each to their own. And then also an introduction for new staff. So kids can get to know a friendly face before they join in September. Those are arguments. And my counter to all of them is none of that explains to me why it needs to happen at the end of July and why it can't happen at the start of September. That's my counter. Like nothing here. If someone's going to tell me about summer school, you need to convince me not just about what they do, but why it needs to take place at the end of July and why it can't just be at the start of September. Is my counter. So Naomi Sykes, listen, if you're listening, holler at me and let me know why all these things are best placed to take place in September. Or is it that the summer school provides just more time for only year sevens? Therefore, rather than, like induction where you've got year sevens, year eights, year nines, year 10s, year 11s, maybe I get that bit. But then a school can organize themselves and have days where it is only year sevens, but it can just be in September and not be at the end of July and eat into the summer break. That's my thoughts on it anyway. I don't know what you guys think. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm going to leave it there. It's 2:25. I've managed to ramble on for 18 pages. If you get the reference, good. If you don't get the reference, where have you been? I've managed to ramble on. It's been good to be back. It's been good to talk to myself and you guys for the hour and a half. It's been good to be back. I'll be back on next week as always. 1 o'clock. I've been on my grind on Twitter. I've actually managed to schedule in guests. I've actually got guests. Let me check my calendar. I've got some guests scheduled in for next week and the week after that. I'm at a wedding on the 26th. There's loads of weddings these days. Then I've got another guest scheduled in for the 3rd of October and another one for the 10th. Listen, I've been on my DMing grind recently and it's paying off. So I've got some guests lined up. So it's not just going to be me for extended periods of time. Big shout out to Joel, who did call in earlier today. If you're still in the studio, big shout out to you. I look forward to connecting with you more on social media, on the Twitter sphere. If you've been in the show, in and out for the most part, thank you very much. It's always appreciated. I have been Kalil Rouse. This is the Sunday Lunch. This has been the Sunday Lunch on Teachers Talk Radio. I look forward to tuning in with you guys again next week.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.
Guess who's back again. Kalil's back. Tell our friend.